Law enforcement preparing for a possible Trump indictment as early as next week.
Breaking news about security preparations getting underway for a possible Trump indictment in New York in the coming days. I want to bring in NBC's Laura Jarrett and NBC's Vaughn Hilliard, who is out.
As is the case with many instances, I still personally believe that this is yet another, like, oh my God, you know, this is just like lib shit, I think. But it's always fun. It's always fun to see libs get libbed up. It's always fun to see, like, the Republicans get very mad. So I am, once again, distancing myself, but also watching from afar and enjoying it from afar, you know? Just sit back and watch the shit unfold.
What do we know about these security preparations, Laura?
Chris, for quite some time, we've known that this investigation into the former president has reached an advanced stage. We've known that for days because, of course, his attorneys were notified that they would have the opportunity to bring their client in if they chose to do so. They're not choosing to do so in this case, but we can now report multiple law enforcement agencies, both at the state, local, federal level, are having discussions about potential security precautions in the event that there was to be an indictment of the former president. Now, we are not saying that charges have been filed. We are not opining on what those charges might be. But the fact that the law enforcement officials at this high of a level are having such discussions shows you that this has reached a significant milestone in the case. And the timing here is important. It is our reporting based off of 5 senior officials that this could happen as soon as next week.
So I don't want to ask you about this specific case. I don't want to go into any sourcing, but in a case like this, where they know it's high profile, when they know it will be security concerns, is there generally an open line of communication?
Oh my God. Republicans are going bananas mode on this, dude. Oh, that's so sick. Okay.
Between police, between other law enforcement agencies, and any DA, anybody who might be the prosecutor.
In the typical case, and we should mention this is not the typical case, but in the typical case, absolutely, there's an open line of communication. Of course, the DA's office relies on law enforcement every day in order to do its job, in order to execute search warrants. They have an open line of communication. Of course, in this case, it's different.
Fuck your experiment, dog.
Because we're talking about the former president of the United States. And again, I want to caution, we are not saying that he's been charged with anything, but of course, he has Secret Service protection. And so in the event that he was charged, it opens up a whole query of issues about how we might handle that. And so that is the reason that you see these preliminary discussions happening at this point.
Let's remind folks, because there are at least 4 major cases that are ongoing, what's involved here in the New York case.
The New York case, as we believe it to be, and again, we haven't seen anything, but we believe it to center on these hush money payments that were made before the 2016 election to Stormy Daniels that were made by Michael Cohen, Trump's former attorney, former fixer, made to Stormy Daniels. And the question is whether those payments were accounted for correctly. Were they false business records? And if they were, can the Manhattan District Attorney secure an indictment on those false business records? Now, in the typical case, something like that would be a misdemeanor. You're not facing jail time. If the district attorney can figure out a way to make that a felony, it's obviously a whole different ballgame. But again, we don't yet know what exactly the charges would be. All
right, let me go to Vaughn at Mar-a-Lago, obviously there covering Team Trump. And he has been, actually, to mention Stormy Daniels, he's been on Truth Social about her in recent days, if not in recent weeks and months. And we know that he closely follows everything that is said about him, particularly on cable news. What would we expect, or would we expect some sort of reaction from Trump himself or Team Trump to this news?
Right, Chris, what we have...
My favorite thing is watching, like, conservatives who are literally just, like, borderline fascists, usually in the way that they, like, believe in the way that they demonstrate their politics, turn into, like, Angela Davis-style prison abolitionists the moment that Donald Trump gets any kind of legal scrutiny. They're like, are prisons supposed to be around? I mean, are prisons obsolete, really? We should maybe abolish the prison system, honestly. Why are we doing that? Like, that's, like, one of my favorite things to watch is all the, like, oh, we love our law enforcement. They should kill more poor people, as a matter of fact. Turn around and go, actually, ACAB 1312, and we need to just destroy prisons. What the fuck? Only for the January 6th. Exactly, which is awesome. I mean, it goes to show you that they just don't really want any of these things. They just want it They're fine with it when it's happening to their, political enemies. And, that's it.
We've heard from the former president himself has come in the form of videos posted to his Truth social media account here over the course of the last several hours this morning, in which he has derided the multiple investigations into him, including the Manhattan District Attorney's investigation into these alleged hush money payments made to Stormy Daniels ahead of the 2016 campaign. Now, we have no indication yet from Trump's counsel or his campaign or him himself that they have been notified of an indictment. And that is where I think it is important that we understand the process here. Right now, we ourselves at NBC News and everybody else is trying to get a better understanding of exactly where the district attorney's process is at right now. We in Lower Manhattan have seen no activity at the grand jury room where these witnesses, including Michael Cohen, have gone before these 16 to 23 jurors since Wednesday afternoon. That's when Michael Cohen left meeting with the grand jury after about 5 hours of testimony over the 2 days. But we did not see any activity at that grand jury room yesterday, have not seen any today. What does that mean? It means that, number one, the grand juries could have potentially even voted on charges that we're talking about here against Donald Trump. But it may not have come out in the form of an official indictment. The foreperson may have not signed this as an official indictment here. And that is where we may be talking about days, it could be weeks, or again, there may be no charges here at all. At that point, once the grand jury were to sign the indictment, then the district attorney would inform Trump's counsel. And this may all come in the form of a sealed indictment here, meaning that it's private, it is not public. And that is where some of these conversations could be existing. We don't know about those conversations at this time. And that is where this is an ever rolling process here to better understand whether the grand jury has completed its investigation or whether it could potentially convene next week. And, it could be hearing from.
I'm going to hold out hope. Like I said, I am of the mindset that wealthy people, powerful people rarely ever get any kind of scrutiny, any kind of punishment whatsoever in the United States of America. It's usually like a global concept with the exception of China, maybe. So I don't know. I mean, it'd be fun. It'd be fun if he did. It would be super sick if he went to jail. And then did a Eugene Debs style run from prison. You know what I mean? He would probably win. I could see him winning if he went to jail and ran from prison. I could see him winning. Like, so much sympathy for him. Like, these fucking people love being victimized. Bro, they've been on this arrest thing for 2 years and they haven't done shit. It's all cope. I mean, yeah. Nelson Mandela of white people is right. Exactly. And he would say that. His ass would say that. He'd be like, I'm just like Nelson Mandela, but he was bad. I'm good. They're attacking the whites, folks. Obama. He's the reason. The third. Okay, stop. I've been treated worse. Much worse than any other person running for the presidency. He would 100% win because he wouldn't be able to fuck up his own campaign by being a miserable sack of shit. They could curate the message however they want in order to get the W. I think he's at his best when he's doing his rallies. Let's be real. When he's doing his little goofy ass rallies, it's like me at the top of the hour. That's when I'm at my best, right? When I'm serving you a 3-minute ad break and then telling you that you can avoid those ads. Trump might not be able to avoid the prison sentence, but you can avoid the ads at the top of the hour by subscribing for $5 or for free with a Twitch Prime, or by getting gifted a sub. Right on the dot, baby. That should be in your point consideration right there. But yeah, you can also get gifted a sub if you're lucky. Here's the 3-minute ad break now. 813 Cenobite Girl, thank you for the 10 gifted subs. Gioforio, thank you for the 5 gifted subs, allowing 5 Italians to no longer see the ads. 15 total. Jesus Christ, this guy said your mother dies in her sleep. That's insane. That's a new kind of psychopath. Kyle Marks, thank you for the 5 gifted subs. B. Arthur, thank you for the 5 gifted subs as well. That's a new one. I mean, I hadn't seen that one before. All right, let's continue.
From even future witnesses. There's a lot of outstanding questions that, because the grand jury has secret proceedings, we don't have the answers to right now, Chris.
Ariana, anything could happen, or is there a situation, Laura, where at least you can say with some certainty, typically, this is what would happen?
I think we can say typically the DA would not have gone this far only to pull back. But we should also say we're still in that phase where we haven't seen the charges filed. And so we should be careful about the speculation on that. I also want to point out that the district attorney's office, Secret Service, the NYPD, everyone has declined to comment. And so I also want to mention, this is based off of our reporting from our colleague at WNBC, Jonathan Dietz, who has 5 sources, and he is a seasoned reporter. But I want to make sure that we're on the record that those agencies have declined to comment.
What's going on? Trump's getting indicted, baby. Anyway, if you want to see like extremely normal takes on that, let's take a look at what Fox News is gearing up their audience for. And this is the morning.
We are learning.
This is the morning lineup. So the morning lineup, as you guys know, is like closer to like normal journalism and normal reporting. This is before we get to the fucking commentary later in the day. And the later it gets, the closer you get to prime time, the more unhinged and white supremacist it will get, as usually that is the case. So I can't wait for what like Tucker's going to say. Tucker's going to just say like, this is white genocide. They hate Donald Trump because he's the savior of white people. And he wanted to secure an existence for white children. Like Tucker Carlson's probably going to pop off with that, I assume.
That the Manhattan DA's office has asked for a meeting with law enforcement ahead of a potential Trump indictment. This is coming to Fox News from a source in the courts. The meeting, which was requested yesterday and has not been set yet, is to discuss logistics for some time next week, which would mean that they are anticipating an indictment next week. The same source who's familiar with the planning said they will go over security preparations in and around the courthouse in Lower Manhattan. Secret Service will take the lead in what they will allow or will not allow. The source cautioned, mentioning, for instance, that the decision to handcuff the president.
I'm hearing ospreys. Is Brandon in California? That's interesting. I wonder, is he? He's in San Diego. Those were Apaches. Actually, they might not have been an osprey, but the president doesn't ride on ospreys. But when they do flyovers, this usually implies that the president's here. It's a new Chinese balloon. V. POTUS lives in LA and they use those helis. Could it be a car chase? No, man. What? There is no. Yeah, they're using ospreys to track down fucking criminals. First of all, it's infinitely more dangerous to fly an osprey over fucking Los Angeles than it is to literally like directly drunk drive a car into off the 405 into like oncoming traffic, okay? The likelihood that that shit is going to explode and fall on top of civilians and kill a bunch of people is fairly higher, okay? So I doubt it.
A former president or not. They will set the tone and will escort him into the courtroom. There will be coordination between all of us, the source said, but we will defer to the Secret Service. The battle will be between Secret Service and DA Alvin Bragg. They will decide how and when he'll get into the building, and they are not going to leave him. The source believes that the former president will still have to be fingerprinted and processed like every other defendant. So this is a huge development if Alvin Bragg has decided to go ahead with a felony indictment of the former president. This was a charge that the federal officials refused to prosecute on or even really pursue. This was a misdemeanor in New York that Alvin Bragg has decided to elevate to a felony, while at the same time downgrading other felonies to misdemeanors. So we'll be watching this to see how it all unfolds.
Yeah, it's nothing. It's not going to happen. He's not. I don't think that he gets perp walked, okay? Maybe I'm wrong. It'd be really cool if it did happen, but I doubt it. Speaking of the other great white hope, the other goat of white people, if you ask the same people that love Donald Trump, that is also getting slapped with a charge that is probably going to lead to nothing. Vladimir Putin. That's right. An arrest warrant has been issued for Russia's president, Vladimir Putin, for alleged war crimes. That's right. Vladimir Putin, who definitely didn't invade Ukraine, by the way, definitely not a real invasion, by the way, just a special operation that's going to be done in a day or two, still hasn't been done for some reason. That guy, he has been declared a war criminal by the International Criminal Court. My suggestion to Vladimir Putin is maybe you should have also set up an Invade the Hague Act. You didn't do that? Well, guess what? You're going to jail, sir. To Mr. Putin, this is what I have to say to Vladimir Putin. Sir, you're going to jail. That's right.
Let's return to the news that's broken this afternoon with the International Criminal Court issuing an arrest warrant for President Vladimir Putin for the alleged trafficking of children from Russian-occupied parts of Ukraine. Let's speak to Olga Ivshina from BBC Russian. Olga, tell us what's been announced by the ICC.
Yes, ICC has just published on its website that they have issued an arrest warrant for Mr. Putin and for Maria Lvova-Belova. That's a children's ombudsman, so the representative, so to say, the defender. She's supposed to be the defender of children's rights in Russia. And she has been a very prominent figure in all this process of moving those children from Russian-occupied areas of Ukraine to Russia, and she was in charge of settling them down, or of the process when some of them were put into Russian families. The very fact that this was published is of course very prominent. On the other hand, Russian officials, in particular Russian Foreign Ministry representative, has already reacted saying that Russia is not a party of the Rome Statute, so the decisions of ICC are not mandatory for Russia to fulfill. And she tried to make a sarcastic comment saying that that doesn't mean anything for Russia. And yes, technically it would be quite hard to arrest Mr. Putin unless he leaves territory of Russia.
Yes, Ukraine's Prosecutor General has said that it's a historic decision, whether it's symbolic or...
Oh, this is such a good take. Okay. Minority college students say they want to kill Nazis and they get celebrated. But we all know what they mean when they say they want to kill Nazis. They mean they want to kill white men. But when white men, like Putin, say they want to kill Nazis, they become war criminals. If this is an example of the leftist war on white men, I don't know what is. What's going on? I'm Tucker Carlson, and tonight we talk about the Great White Hope. No, I'm not talking about Donald Trump, but I'm talking about the Great White Russian Hope. Vladimir Putin. A man who waged war on cancel culture. A man who decided to wage war on social justice warriors in Ukraine, led by Zell Disney.
Actually enforceable yet, as you say. It doesn't look likely, does it? But this follows on from this commission, which found that Russia had committed human rights abuse.
This is very awkward. Check this. I mean, International Criminal Court officials sanctioned by the U.S. Yeah. It is very awkward. The other part of the awkwardness is also that, if I'm not mistaken, I think the very same investigation that was being conducted into war crimes in Ukraine also found some Ukrainian war crimes as well that took place. Obviously, they're not going to prosecute that. And clearly, Vladimir Putin or the Russian war crimes were overwhelming in comparison to Ukrainian ones. But I did see both of those. I did see that when they were covering this, at least originally when it came out, before they declared Vladimir Putin an international war criminal, which he is, right? But who isn't, really, when you think about it? I would love a world in which all the war criminals are arrested, including Vladimir Putin. That'd be great. Arrested and tried. Yeah, which, by the way, exactly, the International Criminal Court issuing an arrest warrant against Putin while letting Bush and Blair, who killed over 1 million in Iraq, roam free, is a joke and everybody knows it. Not only that, but also on top of that, oh God, that's a pretty funny one. Like I've said already, you can't prosecute any American resident, active duty service member or diplomat in the International Criminal Court. we have a law, a domestic law. For those of you who don't know, this is one of my favorite things to talk about. Americans have done war crimes, of course, right? I mean, some might say like 90% of our foreign policy is just war crimes. If it was, the Russia invasion of Ukraine is like a perfect demonstration of this, where like, yeah, those are war crimes, right? Like they correctly call out Russia's actions as war crimes, but like it's the same metric and America is doing it, but America is exempt. Now, the fun fact that I always love to bring is that there is a law that we passed in Congress that dictates that if an American citizen, if any kind of American service member, active duty, or vice versa, is ever brought up to the International Criminal Court, if they are extradited to the International Criminal Court, the U.S. Hague Invasion Act will kick in. You heard that right. We will invade The Hague. U.S. President George Bush today signed into law the American Service Members Protection Act. That's what that's what it was called, which is intended to intimidate countries that ratify the treaty for the International Criminal Court. The new law authorizes the use of military force to liberate any American or citizen of a U.S. allied country being held by the court, which is located in The Hague. This provision, dubbed the Hague Invasion Clause, has a strong reaction from U.S. allies around the world, particularly in the Netherlands. This is real. This is still in action. So maybe that's one of the reasons why you can't really do that. You know what I mean? Maybe that's one of the reasons why you can't really prosecute American war crimes in the International Criminal Court. So, I mean, there is no better demonstration. Oh, this was pretty funny too. Of course, this pairs along nicely with this. Pentagon blocks sharing evidence of possible Russian war crimes with the Hague Court. I wonder why. Perhaps because it would set a bad precedent. And then lastly, International Criminal Court officials sanctioned by the United States. This was back in the 2nd of September 2020. The U.S. court has imposed sanctions on senior officials in the International Criminal Court, including Chief Prosecutor Fatou Bensouda. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo accused the court of illegitimate attempts to subject Americans to his jurisdiction. Yeah. How wonderful that this related. Iraq amputee, I can hug my son with my feet. Related to this, okay? All of this is somehow related to one another, I suspect. I haven't even read the article, but, wonder how that happened to that guy. Anyway, just one of many victims. But yeah, the U.S. has criticized the court since its foundation and is one of a dozen states which have not signed up. Balkis Jarrah, a senior counsel of the non-governmental organization Human Rights Watch, condemned the sanctions as a shameful new low for U.S. commitments to justice for victims of the worst crimes. Mr. Pompeo's move marked a stunning perversion of U.S. actions devised to penalize rights abusers and kleptocrats to target those prosecuting war crimes, she tweeted. Oh, by the way, the treaty for the ICC has been ratified by 123 countries, including the UK, but the U.S., along with China, India, and Russia, have refused to join, while some African nations have accused the body of being unfairly focused on Africans. Huh. Interesting. Once again, the Geneva suggestion, not the Geneva Convention, or any matter of international law is merely just a weapon against America's foreign adversaries. That's it. That is it. There are no rules for America. Only rules for who America has declared their enemies. That's it. So that's fun. That's fun. Fun little moment to consider here when we're talking about the International Criminal Court. Hopefully, they get that guy. They get that guy, Mr. Putin. I hope they get him.
Abuses over the last.
So we should still prosecute Putin. Yes, yeah, of course. Yeah, 100%. But like, if you think I'm not going to talk about the laughable notion of the International Criminal Court's legitimacy, or also other war criminals in this circumstance, come on. Yeah.
Last year in Ukraine.
Yes, that's the claim which Russia was trying to debunk for quite a lot of time. And actually, I think it's very important that, especially internally, this claim that Russia is saving children of Donbass, saving children of Ukraine, is defending children of Ukraine, was very important internally. And it seems that it would be a very harsh question for discussion, both internationally and within Russia at the moment. So Russia tried to show that it's actually doing good for their children. That's the thing which was debated by Ukraine, by international authorities, by NGOs, and there were different examples. Of course, it's very important to remember that it's a very tricky issue. That's a topic which is not black and white, because things which are happening in the war zone. And on the one hand, yes, their
Caustic Red, thank you for the 5. Get the subs.
Lives of those kids were definitely in danger. On the other hand, what we have seen with these kids, what was happening to them.
Are you saying that the court's legitimacy is weakened because of the U.S.'s threats? What is the ICC supposed to do? You are not in here fucking... You're joking, right? That's exactly what I'm saying. Why are you repeating what I'm saying? But like, it seems contentious for some reason. Holocene has been. Thank you for the 5 get the subs. You disagree? You don't want to prosecute Putin? Like, what do you mean? I don't think its legitimacy is weakened. Bitch, what do you mean? It has nothing. There is no. Listen. If you have a court process, okay, that literally can't do anything about the largest, okay, the largest war criminals, then there is no legitimacy to it. It's just another thing that, like, the United States will manipulate to do its bidding. The only reason why you feel like the ICC has like actual jurisdiction or actual legitimacy is because, you only see it from a Western media lens. Replace the ICC with the U.S. courts in an example and he'd get it, lol. Yeah, exactly. Can you imagine if the United States criminal justice system exclusively was like, yeah, we're only actually covering crimes that like black people commit. No crimes for white people. Except that kind of already happens, not to that racial disparity. The racial disparity certainly exists, but also on top of that, there is a class disparity. And you will now understand why it's fucking silly not to point that out, right? It's like getting mad at me for pointing out that, like, when the wealthy kill a bunch of people, like the fucking Purdue family, right? When the Sackler family murder a bunch of people by, like, directly involving themselves in the marketing of Oxycontin to numerous Appalachian districts that are now crippled with fucking fentanyl overdoses and opioid addiction, and then they get away with it. Like, you think I'm not going to mention that while we're talking about, like, opiate addiction in the country? Or someone getting arrested for drug crimes? It doesn't mean that, like, if you're a drug dealer personally that you don't deserve any legal scrutiny. It just means it's really stupid not to mention the disparity there when we're talking about an institution. You didn't even need to point it out, though. It seemed very blatant. That's what it was created for. Yeah, I just don't understand, like, why you would get upset when, like, yeah, of course I agree that Vladimir Putin is a war criminal. Of course I agree that he should be prosecuted. I don't know how they will do that. I don't know how they would ever accomplish that. But if you think that this completely, the jurisdiction for the ICC does not pertain to, like, actual powerful nations, then yeah.
to many of them in Russia was that some of them were put into Russian families. Some of them spent quite a lot of time in camps, in children camps, but there they had to speak Russian. They say that they had to sing Russian anthem every morning. So this doesn't look like a purely humanitarian effort. And I guess that was one of the things which ICC have taken into consideration when preparing for such a decision.
Olga Ivshina from BBC Russian. Thank you very much.
Firstly, I'm not upset. Secondly, it feels like you're blaming the ICC. Oh, so it's your feelings. Okay, got it. It feels like you're blaming the ICC for being targeted by one of the biggest superpowers in the world. It is the most legitimate it can possibly be under the circumstances, so I don't think it's fair to dismiss it as legitimate. I don't know if you noticed it, but like I was criticizing America, not the ICC. So your takeaway from that was just that I'm criticizing the ICC. No, I'm criticizing America. The invasion of the Hague Act. And also that the American government decided to sanction criminal court officials, none of which means that the criminal court is bad. It just means that it is unfortunately a powerless institution. The fuck do you mean? Its legitimacy is undermined by the world's dominant superpower, the United States of America. Yes, I am questioning I'm not even questioning its legitimacy. I'm telling you how it is. When the International Criminal Court has no fucking power, has no tooth on certain war crimes conducted by certain war criminals, the most powerful ones, okay, then it's not a legitimate force that you present it as. It can't be. Do you understand? I wish it were, which is something that I've made very clear. Of course, Vladimir Putin deserves scrutiny, criminal punishments. Of course he's a war criminal, 100%. You're just like concern trolling, I think, or I don't know. You're like optics. You're an optics lord. Please remember, the ICC will not see your disparaging comments, but your friends and people around you will see it and be hurt by it. Imagine listening to what Hasan is saying. That guy didn't listen, hence imagine listening. No, he's saying that Bowie's not listening to what I'm saying. Anyway. Yeah, I also, what's your argument? Are you stating that I'm somehow undermining the legitimacy of the ICC with my sentiment? Because, I'm a Twitch streamer. The most powerful imperialist force on the planet, I think, has done significantly more to undermine the institution by doing things like this that I just showed you than me openly saying that the ICC is a toothless institution, unfortunately, when it comes to other war crimes. It's like, at this point, the unfortunate reality is that the ICC basically is just a way for Western nations to engage in some level of like reputation laundering, to be like, oh yeah, look at us, we're doing the right thing. I just want you to be clear. Maybe I'm the one who's confused. It's always possible, but the ICC being toothless to the USA doesn't necessarily diminish its legitimacy, does it? The ICC, unfortunately, due to the United States of America being the largest imperialist force on the planet, has no tooth when it comes to war crimes coming from the United States of America, war crimes conducted by the United States of America. It's also kind of toothless when it comes to Russia too, by the way. It's backed by Western forces, but ultimately it's like they're not ratifying it. China's not ratifying it. India's not ratifying it, like I said. So, okay, so the chat thinks the ICC is not legitimate. Idealistically speaking, I would wish for the ICC to be legitimate. Yes. Do you understand? Do you get it? Like, I idealistically want the ICC to be legitimate, but will, of course, criticize it for not having any serious power. Just like the Geneva Convention, or rather the Geneva Suggestions, just like every other facet of like of every other facet of like justice, its legitimacy and its legacy, or not its legacy, but definitely its legitimacy is undermined when it is completely neutered by the largest superpower committing the most amount of war crimes. Squirrel has a Noam Chomsky post for this, of course, as always. They turned cities like Fallujah into rubble, massacring everyone as they shelled it with uranium and white phosphorus, which is still causing babies to be born with birth defects higher than Vietnam now. Let's take a look.
Fallujah, first of all, was one of the worst atrocities of the 21st century. The Iraq War itself was the worst crime of the 21st century, easily. Fallujah was probably the worst war crime carried out during that war. The Marines, 6,000 to 7,000 Marines attacked Fallujah, probably killed everyone who was there. They call them insurgents, but whatever that means. The first day of the invasion of Fallujah, you take a look at the New York Times, had a front page photograph of Marines breaking into the General Hospital, which is a war crime, throwing all the patients on the floor and shackling them, throwing the doctors on the floor. It was hailed as a triumph. Yeah. When the high command was asked why they broke into the hospital, they had an explanation. They said it was a propaganda center for the insurgents. It was...
Oh, man, if only a... Dude, Israel does this too, and it's such America shit when they do it. I mean, Russia has done similar things as well, by the way. Do not misunderstand me. Remember, I got to only talk about it from, like, Russia terms so that people can understand that it's bad, because, like, they have no way of, like, thinking that when America does it, it's actually bad. So I got to say, like, well, Russia did this too, you know? Hopefully they understand.
Releasing casualty figures, and therefore it's legitimate to carry out a major war crime. Apparently pretty exotic weapons were used there, and there's evidence which...
Depleted uranium shells and white phosphorus. There's evidence for both war crimes.
Other effects of maybe depleted uranium, maybe something else. It's a major atrocity. So, but it's hailed here as a victory. The only way it is referred to now is as a tragedy, because the Marines fought so hard to liberate Fallujah, and now ISIS is in control of it. I mean, you don't know what to say.
Wait, what? My history textbook says that the USA is the shining city on the hill and a defender of freedom? Yes, of course. Just look at the Fallujah birth defects monitor on here, run by doctors at the hospital, still being updated regularly with horrific cases. Meanwhile, Bush, Blair, Hillary Clinton, Biden, all genocidal war criminals whose crimes are still leading to the deaths of babies to this day, are roaming the world by giving speeches for millions of dollars while the Western media class kisses their asses. Biden led the effort in Congress to start the Iraq War, which led to the killing of at least 1 million, including the total decimation of Fallujah with uranium shells and white phosphorus, one of the worst war crimes of the 21st century. True. Yet many voted for him as the lesser evil. They made one of them president. They turned Biden the mass murderer of babies and children, of men and women, the butcher of Iraq. They didn't issue an arrest warrant for him. They made him the president. You're going to talk about Putin now? Go fuck yourselves. You're all genocidal fascists who believe Iraqis, Afghans, Syrians, Yemenis, Palestinians are subhuman, that their lives mean nothing. You coward scumbags didn't even dare to object to this. Yeah. Then there's Obama, the only Nobel Peace Prize winner who bombed another, the butcher of Libyan. The Nobel Peace Prize, Aung San Suu Kyi got one too. So, but once again, with Aung San Suu Kyi and Obama, the victims of their action or inaction that came afterwards were Muslims. So it doesn't really matter. When you're genociding and butchering Muslim people, it literally doesn't fucking matter. The butcher of Libyan, Yemeni, and Palestinian babies, the drone killer chief who brought back slavery to Libya and is hailed as a saint by the Western media class. No ICC warrants for his arrest. Henry Kissinger. This is a good opportunity to talk about these sorts of things because it's relevant. This does not mean like Vladimir Putin doesn't deserve legal scrutiny or jail. Of course he does. But make no mistake. If you think I'm not going to talk about this shit, I mean, you're out of your fucking mind. Okay, this is an MSNBC, baby. That's why you come here. If you want the baby shit, like, Putin, bad guy. He is, certainly. And just that, leave it at that. America, good guys. Well, then, go to MSNBC or CNN for that coverage because you'll get plenty of that. If you think I'm here to get an MSNBC take, you don't know me well at all. Well, I guess I don't. But you're giving an MSNBC take. I see real life knocking on the door, and I refuse to let the perfect be the enemy of the good. Just because the USA is the beneficiary of the imbalance of justice doesn't mean we should throw the baby out with the bathwater. I mean, I never said disband the ICC. So now you're just making shit up. Me saying that the ICC should not be as toothless of an institution, but unfortunately is now being used to just like reputation launder for the West. or at the very least, like, has no power to like has no power to do anything towards like Western leadership for the most part. That doesn't mean that doesn't mean destroy the ICC as an institution. The problem is Bowie's is a debate lord. That's it. That's the only reason why he's like having this convoluted semantics argument with me and also now others in the chat. Stop adding him. That's it. Just debate lords will be on your side and still try to fucking argue on shit. Stop adding him. One is this: I want Putin to be charged now, and I also want U.S. and Israel to be prosecuted ASAP, but the one is more possible than the other. I don't like the delegitimization of the UN or ICC or other supranational legislation. Okay. I wonder how they'll get him, especially when Xi Jinping is going to meet him next week. Maybe he will go in. Maybe he will go in and fucking secretly arrest them or something.
Let's speak to our diplomatic correspondent James Landale. He's in the Ukrainian capital, Kiev. How significant is this, James, when the Russian Foreign Ministry have been very quick to point out that they're not a member of the statute that underpins the International Criminal Court?
Well, if that's the baseline, then, we should note that Ukraine is not a signatory to the ICC, nor is the United States. The United States doesn't recognize the authority of the ICC.
Dude, whoa. BBC, hold on. Bowie's is coming for you, dude. Why would you bring that up? Why do you consider that to be relevant? Do you want the ICC to be undermined? It seems kind of fucked up. It seems like you're saying that it's a toothless institution now. What the fuck? Hold on, guys. Bowie's, maybe your perspective will change a little bit if the BBC is also saying it. Wait a minute. Hold on now.
The key point about this is that the International Criminal Court has chosen to focus on President Putin. The court could have focused on lots of other military commanders on the Russian side who have bombed civilians, schools, hospitals, residential areas, all of which are accused of being war crimes. Instead, what the court has done, it has chosen to focus on two things. One, the deportation of children, which is, considered a war crime, but also specifically on the responsibility.
This is also pretty funny because, like, I mean, it's not funny. It's, like, really fucked up. But, like, we literally watched CBS cut a positive video in like a 2-part series about an American Marine literally kidnapping a fucking child in Afghanistan like a month ago. I don't know what to say about this at this point. This does not change the reality, okay? Like, yeah, Vladimir Putin, fucked up guy, but like, you have to notice how fucking insanely one-sided American mainstream media is, right? Like, they were like, oh no, they're saving that child, right? That's what they were saying.
Of not just the Children's Commissioner, but President
himself. Here it is.
The court says the reason they're doing it is to try and deter this happening at the moment. In other words, they say this crime is ongoing at the moment. By going public with these declarations of the warrants, they are trying to deter further crimes taking place. Now, whether that succeeds or not remains to be seen. So I think the significance of this is, you're right. It's very, very unlikely that President Putin is going to leave Russia and place himself in a location where he could be arrested. But at the same time, this is a signal from the international community that what is taking place in Ukraine and has taken place in Ukraine.
This reporter is presenting my exact point of view. Of course he is. It's the fucking BBC, dummy. Like, yeah, no shit. I was memeing on how he said America is not a signatory. Because they have to, at least they will recognize that. They usually won't recognize the rest of the shit that I mentioned. Yeah, they are a liberal institution.
Is against international law.
You have an issue when I say the same shit and take it even further by talking about like how the ICC has not had any power whatsoever. Okay? You have an issue with me bringing up the hypocrisy because you think it weakens the ICC When in fact, what has weakened the ICC as a legitimate institution is America's involvement. Okay? That's the problem. Because you, unfortunately, much like many others, and this is like a very hard thing to overcome, have a little bit of the imperial core brain rot, like American exceptionalism, where you're just like, why are you showing this? You want to feel good about saying like Russia is bad, because Russia is bad. Okay? Vladimir Putin is bad, and you want to feel good about saying it. It makes you feel good, like, oh, finally, we don't have to think about America. But America's hegemonic power has not stopped. Every moment that, like, George W. Bush gets to walk freely, every moment that Dick Cheney does not have to live with the scrutiny, even, of all of the war crimes that they have committed, that they have caused, 1 million plus dead Iraqi children, is a moment where the ICC is fucking up. You got to admit Putin alone done more invasions than any U.S. president? Wait, what? Chatter's not joking. He's Moldovan, okay?
And the court is making the allegation that President Putin is responsible for that. And so, as you say, the foreign ministry at the moment is in Moscow is saying that this has nothing to do with them. I'll be specific in what they say. They say the decisions of the International Court have no meaning for our country. This is the spokeswoman, Maria Zakharova. She says that Russia is not a party to the Rome Statute of the International Criminal Court, bears no obligations, that Russia does not cooperate with this body, and so on. Not surprisingly, the Ukrainians have taken a different position. They have made it clear that they welcome this. The chief prosecutor, I'm just looking for the quote here, has said very specifically that the world has received a signal that the Russian regime is criminal, they say, and will be held accountable. And that is really significant to the Ukrainians. They have been demanding.
Do you think the U.S.'s power, soft or hard, is exceptional or not? I do. It's not that I'm an American exceptionalist. It's the fact that America is threatening to international bodies, right or wrong. I just don't know what can realistically be done about that. I don't know what can be realistically done about that, but me bringing that up should not trigger you this much. That's the point. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, that's the issue that I'm taking with your assessment of what I'm saying. Do you not understand? Like, I am a leftist Twitch streamer, and the moment that I like sway away from the normal take that you would hear from any kind of mainstream media outlet, you chirp in the chat and you like kind of lose it a little bit. Hey, listen, multipolar world, baby. Who knows? But Hasan, worrying about the unaccountable war criminals from your own country is whataboutism. Yeah, no, actually. It's just like, what do you want? You want me to not bring that up? That's crazy. And for people who are going to turn around and say like, oh, this is like an all lives matter situation. Remember, motherfuckers, I'm not even saying that like black lives don't matter. The people that say all lives matter or white lives matter when you say black lives matter are people who are doing that deliberately to say black lives don't matter, shut the fuck up. Okay? That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying, yes, of course. No, Vladimir Putin should be jailed, okay? Throw him in jail right now. Do it. But make no mistake. Make no fucking mistake. You know, there is a big baddie out there, a bunch of big baddies out there that get no scrutiny from this institution because they can't.
Demanding a process of accountability to start. They know it's going to be a long game. They know that any form of justice will take many.
How is this like all lives matter? People love, making these awful comparisons with respect to like those who have power and those who do not.
Yes, if you go back all the way to the conflict in the former Yugoslavia, it took decades before some people were prosecuted and some people were convicted. But I think the Ukrainians are happy that at least the process is now starting.
Yeah, as you say, it can take a very long time. I mean, it depends on how likely it is that President Putin will leave Russia? I mean, how often has anybody been arrested under those circumstances? Not often is the answer, I'm guessing.
Well, it depends. I mean, which jurisdiction you're in. At the moment, I think it's unlikely now that President Putin will place him in a position where he potentially could be arrested. But if you think about it, President Putin doesn't do a great deal of travelling. That was heavily constricted during COVID, and since then he travels relatively rarely. I imagine now that they will be more cautious about where and when he goes, if there is an international warrant out for his arrest.
James, for the moment, thank you very much. James Landau, our diplomatic correspondent.
Okay, this is actually pretty funny. So Xi Jinping, the great uniter, our glorious supreme leader in a multipolar world, third term Xi, top Xi, after coming fresh off the heels of trying to at least kickstart the process of ending the conflict in Yemen, solidifying or starting relations, normalizing relations between Iran and motherfucking Saudi Arabia. Not that, like, I'm being a little sarcastic here. Obviously, I have talked about this more in detail before with the Saudi-Iran deal that China put together. You know, I don't know what that will look like. We'll see what happens there. But that glorious leader is now going to Russia to have a little conversation with them. You know what I mean? Now, does this mean they're going to start selling arms to Russia? Who knows? I mean, that's our thing. You better fucking watch your back, Xi. Let's see what he has to do. Let's see what he's going to do. If China ends the Ukraine-Russia war, can you imagine? Dude, that's not happening. That would be insane.
Well, a major development
anyway, let's take a look.
The direction of the war in Ukraine. We learned this morning that Chinese President Xi Jinping will visit Russia next week to meet with Vladimir Putin in an apparent show of support. This comes on the heels of a mid-air confrontation between a U.S. surveillance drone and Russian fighter jets over the Black Sea. Video released by the U.S. military shows the moments before one of the jets clipped the drone Tuesday, causing it to crash. Weijia Zhang is at the White House. Weijia, good morning.
Good morning. Chinese officials say Xi will be meeting with Putin from Monday through Wednesday of next week. It will be their first meeting in 6.
Oh, God, I'm like trying to figure out how to do it. Xi jinging on my ping to like come. I mean, Xi is the correct way to say it. Isn't it Xi Jinping? Stop throwing huzz. You know it's good. I'll figure it out. I'll figure out a good way to say that.
6 months and comes after Xi secured his historic third term as president. This meeting in Moscow also sends a strong message to Washington as tensions between both countries and the U.S. remain high. Chinese President Xi Jinping and his Russian counterpart Vladimir Putin last met in September 2022. Now, just over a year into Russia's invasion of Ukraine, the two world leaders are planning to meet again Monday. Both countries made the announcement Friday.
Oh, God, I want to go to China so bad. Now that I did Japan, I got to go to China, dude. Holy fuck. Please, please. Dear leader, please allow me into your glorious nation. I want to see these tier 1 cities so bad. I want to ride the fucking high-speed rail so bad, dude. Holy fuck.
With the Kremlin releasing a statement saying the two leaders will discuss the development of a partnership and will also...
We're making fun of Chinese names, huh? Yeah, baby. The number one Don't Stop Asian Hate broadcast in the United States of America. Me. I love the you're being quite xenophobic, sweeties, in the chat, dude. You will not find a stronger defender when there are defensible things that China does than me, motherfucker. Shut the fuck up.
Also sign important bilateral documents. This comes on the heels of a report by Politico that Chinese companies have been sending assault rifles, body armor, and drone parts to Russian entities. The shipments took place between June and December of 2022, according to customs data, unconfirmed by CBS News. On the Takeout podcast, White House spokesman John Kirby told Major Garrett Thursday China should think twice before providing lethal weapons to Russia.
We don't believe that it's in China.
China should think twice. That's our game, bro. Chill. Chill. Damn, man. You can really order anything out of AliExpress? Yeah, I mean, quite literally, as a matter of fact. Here it is. Exclusive. Chinese-made drone retrofitted and weaponized downed in eastern Ukraine. Sea drones used by Russian military. China is selling on Alibaba. So, yeah, when you say, like, damn, you can buy anything off Alibaba. Yeah, no, literally. Like, you can, actually. You can buy the fucking tunnel boring machine on Alibaba, dude. Like, you can buy anything on AliExpress. Dude. These motherfuckers about to sell a Hadron Collider, okay? It's like not even that expensive, too. What the fuck? Like, this is a car and it's half off. Like, should I buy this? I got a bunch of streamers together to buy one of the boring tunnels. Boring tunnel machines. There's no way there's free shipping for this. There's a 75-day buyer protection money back guarantee, too. You could buy anything but Jack Ma's Freedom. Yeah, why would I do that? Not gonna lie, some of the mountains in the United States deserve a hole in them. You can make it happen. Dude, that'd be so fun. You'd be a fool not to buy the open box 50% off free shipping boring machine. I don't know where to put this, dude. CBS, Xi is selling weapons to Russia. Reuters, Xi is trying to broker peace in Ukraine. Booyah, 69. Thank you for the 5. Get the subs. I mean, I think the truth is somewhere in between. I understand the whole anti-hegemonic angle and the obvious economic benefits of a partnership with Russia, but I still don't see why China considers this worthwhile, considering the way they've been trying to stay out of the crosshairs of the West as much as possible while they build up power and prosperity. It's one of those expending political capital situations that doesn't add up to me. I agree. I said this already. You cannot, if there's one thing you cannot defeat the United States on, it's selling weapons of war. So I don't understand what diplomatic purpose this would have to continue the efforts and give a lifeline to Russia in any meaningful capacity. Like staying on the sidelines and simply stating from afar, like, oh yeah, well, maybe you shouldn't do that, but we're just not gonna, give our immediate support to the West. That alone, like the Indian style of diplomacy, the Indian diplomacy in this circumstance, I think is more beneficial if you are trying to be a world power, a superpower in this field. It's like that's what India did. India was like, oh yeah, we love the West, but also like we're not really gonna say something too bad about Russia now, so they can get Russian gas and oil and sell it to the Western world, right? At a higher markup, being the mediator. That's like great. It's great for them. Don't really understand why China is not, if China is like straight up fucking dumping weapons into Russia, they're not going to make enough money off that. It doesn't make sense. The weapons were private orders, not sent by the government. Yeah, but nothing in China happens without the scrutiny of the government. Let's be real.
China's best interest to be on that side of the war in that way to help.
That's like saying the pipelines blew up completely outside of the purview of the United States. Like, come on.
Mr. Putin slaughter innocent Ukrainians. We don't believe it's in China's best interest, but obviously that they'll have a choice to make.
Just days ago, a Russian fighter jet collided with an unarmed American drone, forcing it to crash into the Black Sea. Video released by U.S. officials Thursday shows the Russians making 2 passes from behind the drone, dousing it in a cloudy stream of jet fuel before clipping it.
To demonstrate publicly what type of actions the Russians had taken, we felt that it was important to provide this imagery.
CBS News has learned that those Russian pilots were acting on orders from military leaders. And in another development, this morning, Slovakia announced it will join Poland in sending fighter jets to Ukraine in the coming days, making them the first NATO nations to do so. The White House says that decision does not impact the U.S. assessment that Ukraine does not need fighter jets right now, and the U.S. does not plan to send any.
Oh, shit. Chill, bro. Poland, on the other hand, Paul Keating, China has committed the largest sin in the eyes of the United States. What is the sin? To develop an economy as big that is as big as the United States? Oh, shit.
Committed in the eyes of the United States. The great sin of internationalism. And what is that sin? To develop an economy as big as the United States. That's the sin. The Americans will never condone or accept a state as large as them.
I'm going to be honest with you. I'm just not fighting in this, okay? Like, I don't know about you guys. But I'm not fucking fighting in this, okay? Straight up. I don't give a fuck. I'll go live in a mountaintop. I don't give a single fuck. You know what I mean? Conscientious objector status immediately. You know? I can't do it. I got weak knees, okay? I got bad knees, man. I got bad knees. It's not happening, okay? You think I'm going to put my body on the fucking line so that, like, Raytheon's fucking bottom line looks better? Get the fuck out of here, dude. No shot. I'm buying one of those Alibaba Express tunnels, and I'm tunneling down all the way to China until I come out of the other side, okay? Getting no scope by pro CS players? Yeah, it's just so fucking stupid. So dumb. Come to Canada. You think America's hat is not involved in this? You crazy. There's there's very little places you can go to on the planet if like America and China get into any sort of heated, any additional heat. Oh God, it's just like, it's so fucking annoying, dude. There is so much more food to eat, okay? I have not had my entire life's worth of A5 Wagyu. I need to go to Japan. I need to go to China still. You cannot end the world before I do these things, okay? I got to fire off way more nuts. I got ropes to fucking unload. And I got delicious meats to consume. And you motherfuckers are trying to end the world, dude. It's bullshit. Metal Gear Solid remaster potentially in the works. You're going to sit here and act like the world should end before we play Metal Gear Solid and Metal Gear Solid 2 once again. Maybe Metal Gear Solid 3, put that in there for good measure. I haven't finished One Piece. Luffy has not found the hidden pirate treasure. I want to see that shit. You mean to tell me we're going to end the planet? I made commitments, motherfucker. I made commitments. I'm 500 goddamn episodes deep into One Piece lore. You're going to tell me that we're ending the fucking world? No shot. No fucking shot. Absolutely not. Fuck no. No. Bullshit. Everybody needs to chill the fuck out, dude. Elden Ring DLC still not announced. Got to wait for that until the world ends. Yeah, no, for sure. I don't like that.
I would have preferred they remain in poverty, 20% of humanity forever. But the fact that China is now, an industrial economy larger than the United States, larger, according to IMF, 20% larger. They say, hang on, this is not in the playbook. China has committed in the eyes of...
Fucked up. I just don't know. Yeah, KOTOR remake still not released. Absolutely fuck no. Stop it. Stop it. Many ad break segues to come. You know what I mean? I got a long life ahead of me, hopefully. Fuck that.
Underlying.
Don't want to see the end of the world yet. You know what I mean? But if you want to see this broadcast in an uninterrupted fashion without any sort of ad breaks whatsoever, then all you need to do is subscribe, baby. Because at the top of the hour, there's a 3-minute ad break. If you no longer want to see those ads, all you need to do is subscribe, which you can do for $5 or for free with a fucking Twitch Prime. Twitch Prime is fucking free as long as you got an Amazon Prime account. Connect it to your fucking Twitch account. There you go. Wham bam, thank you, fam. Also, you can get gifted a fucking sub too. Evil Az, thank you for the 5 get the subs. NP Sharky, thank you for the 5 get the subs, allowing 10 people to no longer see the fucking ads at the top of the hour. Very fucking nice. Nice. You're too old to be conscripted anyway. It doesn't matter. If the world fucking ends, it just ends. You know what I mean? Here's a 3-minute ad break now.
All this stuff about the need of nuclear power is the idea.
Go fucking warm up my chicken.
Us, or will threaten us. Now, this is a distortion and it's untrue. China does not threaten the United States. Nobody can threaten the United States. It's got 10,000 kilometres of sea between the Chinese coast and California. It's got the Atlantic Ocean on the other side. It has a massive country with in space, in land mass, and friends in Canada on the north and Mexico on the south, and the greatest armaments in all history. China has committed, in the eyes of the United States, the great sin of internationalism. And what is that sin? To develop an economy as big as the United States. That's the sin. They've got as big as the US. The Americans will never condone or accept a state as large as them, you know, and that's what China presents. China's mere presence. I mean, they would have preferred they remain in poverty, 20% of humanity forever. But the fact that China is now, you know, an industrial economy larger than the United States, larger, according to the IMF, 20% larger, they say, hang on, this is not in the playbook. This is not in the playbook. You know, what an affront. This is about the maintenance of US strategic hegemony in Asia. Now, this is a country which has no land in the metropolitan zone of Asia. There's no US in Asia. It's 10,000 kilometres across the Pacific to the coast of California. So they are not a metropolitan Asian power, but they claim to be and wish to be the primary strategic power in Asia. So what are the Chinese supposed to say to that? Oh, that's okay. We've been here 4,000 years. We've developed, you know, we've been subjugated by every bugger known to man. We've developed a decent economy, a decent standard of living, you know, shelter, accommodation, education, you know. That's our sin, is it? That's our sin. And we've got to be superintended by your Navy, you know, by the US Navy. Could you just imagine if the Chinese Blue Water Navy decided to do their sightseeing 6 miles off the coast of California? Could you imagine the brouhaha that would go on?
You got to go to Aussie land before the world ends? Bro, I want to go to Aussie land, but like the Aussies are playing a very interesting tightrope game here, right? Because on the one hand, you got like Australia's entire economy being reliant. Okay? Entire economy being reliant on China. Okay? On the other hand, they're getting nuclear submarines from the United States of America. Okay? And what I don't understand is like, bro, you are not the Philippines. Like, what? You're going to turn your country into a fucking, a sea base? Kind of slazy with it. You just don't fucking get it. Friendly Geordies and boy will protect you. Mate, friendly Geordies can't even fucking protect his own fucking house. The fuck do you mean? Bro, Friendly Geordies is currently, like, literally having his fucking home firebombed. What do you mean? He's perhaps the worst person to hang out with if I'm in fucking Australia, dude. If I'm trying to evade scrutiny from any kind of government whatsoever. Out of pocket, bro. I mean, it's so fucked up. Give every citizen in Perth a javelin and this war will be over so fucking quick. Don't stop, mate. We need those subs to defend our small island nation. No, it's just money. It's a money-making operation. You're going to be able to make, like, submarines. You're going to make nuclear submarines. That's going to be a jobs provider for the Aussies, right? But it's also additional fucking protection, right? And by that, I mean you'll be able to surveil Chinese activity in the fucking sea, right? That's not a fucking accent. Yeah, all right. Well, everyone knows what. Any non-Aussie who says they like Vegemite is no taste buds and should be locked away. It's hundreds of billions of dollars for submarines that won't exist for a decade. Yeah, they're just like making money. It's a money-making operation. Did you know that Friendly Geordies was called racist by one of the politicians he mocks because the politician is Italian? I'm not joking. I do love that. God, that's awesome. I mean, Friendly Geordies is great. Yeah. Oh, here it is. Poland mention, obligatory Poland mention. Here is Poland throwing their hat in the ring. They're the first country, or not first country, but they are sending jets to Ukraine.
To deliver warplanes to Ukraine. Our foreign correspondent, James Longman, is on the scene for us with the latest. Good morning, James.
Yeah, good morning, Michael. Poland will be the first country to give fighter jets to Ukraine. An announcement yesterday, the Polish President Duda said 4 Soviet-era MiG jets will be delivered to Ukraine in the next few days. They have others to give. They just need to be serviced before they are sent. Now, it's important to say these are some 30 years old. They're nearing the end of their working lives, but they don't need the same amount of training that more advanced planes.
Damn, bro, they're giving dog shit, dude. they're like, here, take this trash. What the fuck? F-16s, bro. Start training these fucking pilots, right? There's money to be made, motherfucker. Come on.
What does this mean for the United States? Well, the White House has said this doesn't affect their calculus. President Biden has already ruled out giving F-16s, but they do say that it is the sovereign decision of each country. And in that vein, Slovakia has this morning said they want to give 13 of these MiG jets. Meanwhile, the Russians are trying to improve them.
It's like your CS cases. Let's not talk about my CS cases. I got hard fucked, okay? Absolutely hard fucked, proper fucked by the CS cases.
The military capability. They say they want to put hypersonic missiles on every one of their submarines. No word yet on when they're going to be able to do that, but these are the missiles that Ukraine cannot defend against. So obviously worrying for this country. And this morning, after a lot of speculation, we now know that President Xi of China will visit Moscow next week. Russia keen to say that this is a show of support for Vladimir Putin. The Chinese saying they're just trying to provide the conditions for peace talks. We'll just have to wait and see. George?
James Longman, thank you.
Still think Ghost of Kyiv story is not true. Watch what happens with new planes when they get it. Moldova, Mama Liga, you don't even know what a plane is. You think it's a bird, dog, okay? Motherfuckers never seen a plane over here talking about planes. The conversation does not pertain to you, okay? They saw one when they fled to the U.S. Yeah, that's true. I guess that's true. He did do that. Austin, the Ghost of Kyiv is alive and well. Austin is so desperate for me to pay attention to him right now. I can see that. I wonder if there's more. I kind of want to cover this more, but I don't know what else to talk about. Okay, yeah, I saw that already. Obviously, this is r/Baltic states. One of the, yeah, of course it's going to be awful. Look at this. Today, we Latvians remember our soldiers in World War II who fought in Nazi uniforms. It's Reddit, brother. Although they were part of the Waffen SS, they were not Nazis and rather fought for their families and land. Bro, you didn't have to say this part. Like, this gives the game away, dog. Why did you do this? It's like when you see like a Azov guy with the fucking black sun patch. Like, what? You couldn't take the patch off before you posed for the Associated Press? Like, what are you doing? Like, do you not care? What is happening here? Yeah, instead of blood and soil, he said families and land, which is very different than blood and soil. You know, families, not blood, and land, not soil. Obviously, very different. You guys are being annoying. Oh my God. Let's talk about 11 big banks rescue First Republic Bank with a $30 billion bailout. We're over here talking about fucking China, Russia, Ukraine. Meanwhile, we got some fucked up shit happening in our financial institutions, folks, here in the United States of America. Let's talk about that for a second while I go grab my chicken.
Worries over the banking system and the massive efforts now to boost confidence. In the latest effort, California-based First Republic Bank was given a $30 billion lifeline from 11 other banks in a deal partly brokered by Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen, who also took questions from senators on Capitol Hill yesterday. And Capitol Hill is where we find our Scott McFarland, who's covering all of this for us. Scott, good morning.
Tony, good morning to you. The nation's Treasury Secretary gave temporary reassurance to lawmakers here about the state of the U.S. banking system. But the big question is, what happens next if another financial institution runs into trouble? First Republic Bank of California becomes the third U.S. bank this week to be rescued from collapse. 11 of America's largest financial institutions agreed to pump $30 billion into First Republic to stabilize the troubled lender after its value tumbled Thursday during early trading, rattling markets and the bank's customers.
I was definitely concerned with the financial situation, after the two banks went under.
Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen announced the deal hours after trying to reassure Congress about the health of America's banking system.
I can reassure the members of the committee that our banking system is sound and that Americans can feel confident that their deposits will be there when they need them.
The tumultuous week for banks has triggered new debate over a move by then-President Trump and Republicans, joined by 17 Democrats, to loosen bank regulations in 2018.
I think it's important we pay close attention to what's happening. I think it's important that this
body quit listening to banking lobbyists.
But Republicans who supported the changes 5 years ago blame Biden administration regulators for failing to detect and stop banks from taking dangerous risks.
This administration has a great deal of responsibility for the bank failures that we had.
Dude, that's awesome. It's awesome when Republicans are like, yeah, where are the regulators? I guess they're too busy being gay or whatever, right? Like that's the funniest part when they're like, wow, it's really crazy that like our banking regulators are not doing their jobs after we, basically eviscerated any matter of like regulatory power they have and have created a process where there's like a fucking revolving door between regulators and the banks that they're regulating, right? And now it's like, oh man, who's to blame here in the situation where like obviously all of those chickens come home to roost? Wokeness. The regulators were gay. They were being gay. That's why this happened. Awesome. It's brilliant. It's the best.
Wall Street prepares for its final trading this week. There's a sense of uncertainty.
And if you just look at the news, you can tell that I think there's a lot more we don't know than we do know, right? And so we get the sense that there will be further problems.
Senators also pressed the Treasury Secretary about whether other banks across America would get similar rescues to the ones issued this week. She said only if there is systemic risk to the U.S. economy. Nate?
Scott, thank you.
Turning now to France, where President Emmanuel Macron has invoked extraordinary powers to bypass the lower house of parliament and force through a plan to raise the country's official retirement age. The move was met with anger on the streets, and that's putting it lightly, where thousands of people took part in demonstrations. Elaine Cobb has more from Paris.
Police clashed with protesters as angry workers took to the streets within minutes of the government forcing through unpopular pension reforms. They will see the retirement age raised from 62 to 64, which is still younger than most of Europe. Opposition lawmakers booed and jeered as Prime Minister Elizabeth Bourne told the National Assembly, where the bill would not pass, she was invoking special constitutional powers to force the bill through, as it became clear the minority government did not have the support to win the planned vote. They sang the national anthem to drown her out as she told them, "We cannot gamble on the future of our pensions. This reform is necessary." President Emmanuel Macron says his reforms are needed to ensure today's young people have a pension when they retire and without having to fund it by raising taxes. His plans prompted a nationwide strike.
That is the literal issue there. That's it. Like, there's a way to ensure that the pensions are protected. It's just like they can't. God forbid, bro.
Strikes and protests from January. They caused transport chaos, closed schools. This man says, we are the ones who have to work another 2 years. We are the ones dying on the job. We are the ones dying unemployed. So at the end of the day, it's up to us to decide. And a nearly 2-week-old strike by trash collectors has left piles of garbage heaped around Paris. As night fell, some protesters lost no time setting them on fire. The unions have called for stepped-up strikes and more protests. They say they won't stop until the reforms are dropped altogether. For CBS Mornings, Elaine Cobb, Paris.
Why can't we do this? I mean, we're cucks. What do you mean? And it's not just us. The British are like this too. Like the Anglo-Saxon mind. Not to get all fucking phrenology with it, but the Anglo-Saxon mind is servile. Is subservient. That's what it is, I think. I don't know what the fuck it is. I mean, it's obviously not that. I'm joking, but like it literally is. We're just so cucked. We have no mechanism of pushback. Any kind of pushback is seen as like bad. You're rocking the boat. For a fucking century, all matter of trade unionist activity has been undermined by the federal government. That's it. It's capitalism. Anyway, let's get back to the banks, though, because I want to talk about this. Workers are doing too well. Called the Fed to shut that down. Jon Stewart interviews Treasury Secretary Larry Summers.
Huge levels of demand, and those huge levels of demand kept pushing up prices and pushing up wages. But ultimately, it was you put too much water in the bathtub overflows. You put too much demand into the economy, and you get high and rising prices.
But the San Francisco Fed says that is demand is maybe 30 to 35% of the inflation. Wages are really around 20% of the inflation. There's a huge corporate profit aspect to it. There's a huge supply chain aspect to it. But our method for controlling it seems really much more focused on wages and employment.
There's certain sicknesses you can have where there's a drug and it has side effects. And everybody hates the side effects, and no doctor wants their patient to suffer the side effects. But if you don't address the sickness, you're gonna have a bigger problem down the road.
But the stock market assets have gone.
That's so funny. Because, like, it's like breaking your arm, and then instead of putting it in a fucking cast, you just cut the arm off. Because you're like, well, the bone's broken anyway. What kind of a fucking analogy is this, dog? Like, inflation, for the most part, is still absolutely caused by profit-seeking ghouls. But the reality is, I mean, he's not going to mention this, but the reality is there is no price controls that you can implement because that would be communism, okay? There is no deflationary mechanism that you can implement through the legislative body in the form of taxes because that would be communism. So the only thing they have is cutting the fucking arm off. That's it. That's what they're doing. They're slowly cutting finger by finger, maybe the hand next, to try to put a stop to this by way of diminishing worker, like the marginal amount of fucking worker power that that workers gain during COVID.
Gone up 150%. CEO pay has gone up 1,500%. Workers' wages haven't gone up at all. I think you're misdiagnosing the sickness.
First, John, inequality is a terrible thing. The most serious problem the American economy has been the cleavages between those like you and me who are very fortunate. That's why we need a strategy of strengthening labor power in the economy. The question, though, is it an issue that somebody whose control is over setting interest rates and printing money can do much about? Now, you could say that they shouldn't have responded to the 2009 recession by cutting money, by cutting interest rates. You could say that.
Yes,
but
you could.
Do you really think, and certainly that wasn't what progressives were saying at that time.
It doesn't matter.
At that time, progressives were saying we need lower interest rates so people can borrow money to buy houses and put people to work.
But they were
lower
My, I guess, unique perspective on this is that, and this is like not a fashionable one to say, but quantitative easing has to stop at some point. And I do understand why you would have to increase interest rates. So I don't even think that that is like the legitimate problem. It's just that when you do that as the only deflationary mechanism without actually addressing the root cause, because that creates unique issues in and of itself. Okay? But the problem is the money supply is only going to those at the tippy top anyway. Okay? It's not like they're doing modern monetary theory, chat. Like, they're not doing MMT. They're not fucking, unlimited, printing an unlimited amount of money and, like, doing it to fund social programs. It's just helping prop up new bubbles like the tech bubble, like we've seen, okay, which is part of the reason why we're seeing the tech bubble suffer so aggressively now. The problem is there are many actual deflationary mechanisms that the government has no problem, or the government has no power to implement, okay? So the interest rates conversation, in my opinion, is like entirely separate. Can you please shut up, hun? You're so annoying. Where's my juicer? All right, price caps would help. I would be a fan.
It
for car
at the
loans.
corporate level, where they just put the money in the hands of the bankers and say, you decide. This pandemic was the first time the government, in my opinion, did the thing that they're supposed to do in a crisis. When you look at the stimulus payments that went out, 70% of it was being used for rent and food. And if you look at the recovery in the pandemic versus the recovery from 2008, when you stimulated the economy at the demand level, jobs had plunged in the pandemic, and then they shot back up. The recovery in 2009 was painstaking, but the stock market did great. So our fiscal policy and our monetary policy has always been on the side of corporate easing.
Just so we're clear, if you talk to African-American voters, if you talk to Hispanic voters, talk to voters who don't have college degrees, they regard the country's biggest problem as having to do with inflation. So while you may see this as having been tremendously successful, our fellow Americans who don't live as comfortably.
Dude, neoliberalism is so disgusting. It's so cynical. Like, this demon is like, yeah, talk to some black voters. They love that we're increasing interest rates. They love it. It's like, dude, shut the fuck up, bro. What do you mean? He tried to turn this into like, it's only white people that are upset. First of all, oh God, I've never been so conflicted because on the one hand, I understand why you would increase interest rates, okay? But also on the other hand, like, this has nothing to do with what the fuck he's talking about. In the United States of America, gains are privatized, losses are socialized, okay?
As you and I do, have a lot of questions, John, about what's happened. And it's not hard to understand why they have a lot of questions in light of what's happened to their purchasing power.
But you're suggesting their purchasing power.
We took a good idea and overdid it.
I disagree.
By providing for too much inflation.
But what you're not addressing is not all of inflation was stimulus. The tools that we have, though, are basically saying to somebody, everyone's paying more for gas and groceries, and that's really hard. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to throw 10 million of them out of work so that we all don't have to share that burden. Why aren't we attacking corporate profit in any way? Because that's been estimated to be 30% of inflation, 40% of inflation.
I don't think it's a tenable view that all of a sudden corporations became greedy. Of course there's monopolies in the economy.
No, you fucking demon. They've always been that way. What the fuck? Ah! That's insane. First of all, go ask that very same group of individuals if you ever even were in a proximity of one. But if you go ask those very same black people, brown people, Mexican people, Latino people, whatever, whether they think corporate greed is a fucking major problem in America. If you're gonna act like, you're doing this for black people, go ask them that. Wonder what their perspective on that is. That's awesome. He's like, what? Corporate greed didn't just grow out of nowhere. Yeah, you're right. It didn't. It's been growing. Non-fucking stop, asshole.
John, and we should be for
they've been bragging about it on
much more aggressive
earnings calls.
Than we were.
They're on their earnings calls, they're saying our profits have never been higher. We're killing it. The markups during the pandemic are sometimes they're saying 70% of what they were.
If there was a huge increase in the demand for shrewd television commentary, I imagine the demand for what you do would go way up. And I imagine you'd convert that into higher wages and getting more and getting paid better.
You're saying it's the market at work.
I don't think you'd call yourself a gouger when you...
I would absolutely call myself a gouger.
When you did that.
And by the way, the effect of the talk show business is very different than the effect of ExxonMobil, right? I mean, let's be fair.
Isn't this show going to be on Apple TV?
Correct.
And I think Apple TV is worth about 5 times as much as Exxon. I think Apple's price, since the stimulus began, Apple's value has gone up by about $1.2 trillion.
Yeah, bro, because you're talking to Tim Apple. This guy, this demon, doing the same debate tactics that motherfuckers do to me when they're like, well, you work for Amazon. Bitch, so do you. There is no avoiding fucking working for a demonic monopoly in this country. They designed it so that you can't get away with it. The fuck do you mean? And like, it's additionally funny because like, he is a person with, like, there are not that many singular individuals with like a lot of power. He's one of them, okay? Like, it blows my mind that like anyone that fucking, and anyone and everyone is just like, wow, like this is a good argument. Like anyone that looks at this and goes, that's a good argument, needs to be fucking lobotomized.
Right. That's $4,000 for every American, just an increase in the value of Apple.
You just made my point for me.
Do you feel that Apple is somehow gouging or doing something wrong?
Yes, of course. And Exxon is, and Mobil is.
So let's talk about Apple. Let's talk about Apple. Do you think Apple should just sell phones for less and not have enough phones? What would you have Apple do?
You're saying to me, John, market force.
Do you think Apple should just sell phones for cheaper? Yes. It's so funny. He was not expecting him to say yes to Apple because he's like, he himself is such a corporate dog. Obviously, that's why he's in the position that he's in, and a corporate master at the same time, simultaneously. That like he assumes that every other person that he's talking to is going to also be like, oh no, please, no, oh no, Apple phones, their prices should not be changing. Oh my God.
Exxon is, and Mobil is.
So let's talk about Apple. Let's talk about Apple. Do you think Apple should just sell phones for less and not have enough phones? What would you have Apple do?
You're saying to me, John, market forces are market forces. And if demand goes up, are you suggesting, young man, that Apple should charge less than they could charge? Let me flip that on you. When there's a tightness in the labor market, what you're saying is the workers shouldn't do the same. That the workers, just following the same capitalistic principles that allow Apple to charge more for their phones, shouldn't charge more because wage inflation.
Meanwhile, they never fucking hit the profit center. Yeah. No, that's it. The only thing that they're there to defend is the fucking profit center. That's it. Profit margins. It's obvious. That's it. He's right. Jon Stewart is absolutely correct with this.
Is driving inflation.
That's not at all what I'm saying, John.
That's exactly what you're saying.
Actually, it isn't. Every worker should get as high a wage as they can. It would be a terrible idea.
But the Fed is going to intervene. The Fed is going to intervene to make that not possible.
No, the Fed is intervening to control the overall level of demand growth.
And what will that do to the labor market?
Much faster.
What will that do to the labor market? What will it do to the labor market? It will loosen
is likely to lead
to looser labor markets.
A somewhat looser labor market.
Exactly.
We hope to minimize that consequence.
Wages are still growing rapidly. The Fed wants them to slow down until we decide to hit the profit center as the main reason for why prices are going up. We will never be able to solve any of these issues. But that is maybe not socialist, but inherently anti-capitalist. That's the point. And that is precisely the reason why the bourgeois government that was created not to defend democracy or anything else, but just to defend capitalism, will never do that. Remember what I just said. Attacking profit margins, which means forcing corporations to bring in a smaller percentage of profits next quarter by shaving away how much money they can return to their shareholders. Okay? By attacking the corporate consolidation All of these things are, albeit not socialist, but definitely anti-capitalist, because capitalism is about doing the exact opposite. But because our government is designed to expressly protect profit margins for corporations, they will not do that. That's it. Historically, nominal wage growth has typically outpaced inflation by about a percentage point, but both wage growth and inflation are now much higher than normal. Even though paychecks have been growing rapidly, inflation has outpaced wage gains for many workers, and real wage growth has been negative for nearly 2 years. In December, average hourly earnings increased by 4.6% from the year before and 0.3% from the prior month. In comparison, wages grew at an average rate about 5.1% in 2022. Average hourly earnings are calculated by dividing the total worker payroll by the total worker hours, meaning that they can reflect changes in wages and workforce composition. Although inflation has started to slow in recent months, price increases have been outpacing wage gains for much of the pandemic. In December, prices rose 6.5% from the year before and declined 0.1% from the prior month. There is a way where you could increase wages while simultaneously keeping prices low. But that would demand some level of profit decrease.